Hi, I'm Dean Aloysides and I'm a general dental practitioner. The topic of today's talk is going to be the use of Atlantis custom abutments and how we can integrate those into our digital workflow. When we do implants, when we come to restoring implants, of course we all know that we have to start from the restorative perspective. We plan our implant cases with the end result in mind. It's the restorative driven approach, and for the most cases and for the most part this works out quite well, and it also allows us to use things like tie bases and scan bodies and scan posts to plan and make our implant restorations. However, every now and again we will come across a case where the implant is suboptimal, as you can see in these pictures here. The placement has not been ideal, the emergence profile is not ideal, it's too far buccally placed, the orientation is too buccal, and the incisal edge again is too buccal, and we can see this from these photos. And if we were to try and restore this with a scan body and a scan post and a tie base, we just would not get the result that we want. And this is why we have to think alternative solutions. And there's a variety of solutions that are available to us on the market. And again, the topic of this conversation, this talk, is going to be the Atlantis abutment in the workflow. And you can see here quite clearly that the emergence of this implant is way too labial. And how does this actually translate in general practice? Well, this is a case that I had referred to me. This was an implant that was placed overseas, and again you can see how deep it's placed, how subcrestal it's placed, and trying to do this using a scan post and then a tie base was never ever going to happen with any degree of predictability or certainty. So I had to think of something different, and in this case the something different was the Atlantis abutment. So I went through the whole process, I scanned it, I used the Atlantis scan bodies, planned my case, sent it off to Atlantis, got back the digital files that I needed. They also sent me back the customized abutment, and the end result was a very satisfactory restoration, a happy patient, which is what we want at the end of the day, and a nice and relaxed dental surgeon, i.e. me. So this is, I've just lifted this from the Atlantis website, and you can see here we have total control over the tooth shapes, the abutments that we can have, and how we're going to go about making the various restorations. And these are the preferences we can have, and again I'll be talking about these in more detail as this case goes on. And the case I'm going to be talking about is based on a model, and it's going to be based on those models that I showed you right at the beginning of this presentation. It's easier to work off a model than it was in a live case for this particular situation. I had more time, I had more control over what I wanted to talk about, but the translation into real life and into real patients is so easy. And I wouldn't be worried about recommending this particular pathway to anybody. So without too much more ambling along, let's crack on with this. So the first thing we really want to do is open up our Connect case. I've called this a test case, but obviously you'll bring up your own patient. We're going to select Sirona implants under the indications, and this will automatically send the files over to to the Atlantis website. We're going to select the implant, and I'm selecting screw retained in this particular situation, although I must you can change it later on, and you can go for cemented. Again, it's entirely up to you what path you want to go down. Because of the orientation, the angulation of this particular implant, I think I really should have elected cemented at this stage, but it doesn't really matter. We then go down the drop down list, and we're going to select the scan body type based on the implant. And the implant that I used in this particular case was a Straumann. And again, just because Atlantis is supported by Dentsply Sirona doesn't mean you only have to stick with Dentsply Sirona implants. You can use pretty much any implant you want. And again, I've chosen a Straumann and it's a bone level, and when you work through, you can see that you're going to use an Atlantis IO Flow scan body, scan post, and it was a 4.8 implant. So again, you just select that, and that makes everybody's life a lot easier. Selecting the material and selecting the final shade, these are all optional for you. And you can see here the default position is zirconium or resin. And again, Atlantis would recommend a zirconium oxide crown to be made, which then needs to be bonded onto your screw retained abutment. Things are slightly different and would be different if you were to go for cement retained. And again, the control is up to you and the choice is up to you. Just work within your limitations and the limitations of the particular materials. Okay, and again, bottom line is think of what you're doing for your patients and keep your patients and the final result at the forefront of your mind. Okay, and again, just double checking everything. We're going for an implant. I've called it a screw retained implant. It's a Straumann bone level Atlantis IO Flow scan post, and we're going to Dentsply Sirona as a lab, and just double checking everything again. We go into the acquisition phase, and again, just like you would do with any digital restoration, you're going to go through the exactly the same protocols of scanning. I would say at this stage that it is imperative and for accuracy that you send upper and lower and scan body files and buccal bite files to Atlantis. I haven't done that here because I'm just working with an upper model, but in real life, send all 4 files over to Atlantis. It's almost mandatory. Okay, it's the only way you can guarantee an accurate result. If they don't have the opposing model, then the lab themselves are going to struggle with occlusal clearances. Okay, so scan your restorations, check your scan for any voids or any gaps, make sure all of the data is captured. And again, you can see here that using the prime scan, it's incredible the detail that it captures, the depth of field and how focused, the depth of field it will focus to, and the amount of data that it captures. I used to use the Omnicam, and then I've moved up to the prime scan, and between you and me, I just love the way it handles. Okay, we're now just going to capture the scan body, and you can see here the scan body is in situ, and all I need to do is just capture the teeth on either side, so that everything marries up. And again, you can see the good job that the prime scan does of knitting the various files together and overwriting, merging data and just ignoring and cutting out extraneous rubbish. Check your scan as well, of course, see where you're missing and just go back in and just recapture those areas. Okay, the more accurate your scan is, the easier the life is for everybody that's involved. Okay. So we're continuing with the scan, just double checking everything, check there's no more data missing, and once we're happy with that, we can then start thinking about the next phase, which is the model phase. And again, here you would have all 4 files that would be knitted. Okay, and here is a model, and as you can see, everything is there. So the scan post data and the original data all married, everything stitches nicely together, and again, this is going to be a very good accurate scan that will be picked up by Atlantis. Okay, and again, don't forget, send all 4 files. Log into your Connect Case Center, and again, if you don't know how to do that, if it hasn't been set up for you, speak to your Dentsply Sirona rep. But if you're used to using Connect, this should have already set up for you. Okay, and again, we're just going to double check the data. We've got an implant restoration. I've still got screw retained crown here, but we can see about changing that later on. It's not the end of the world if you start off with one and you decide later on that you're going to change it. Here is all the data. Depending on where you are, you can either send it anonymous. I tend to leave it. I tend to non-anonymize it, and then I will put into the patient ID a code. Here you can add additional files if you so want. So if you've got image files that you want to send to the lab, any lab really, or that is going to aid them in the design, then that's what you can do. Again, make sure the recipient is selected and it's Dentsply Sirona. If you want to add any additional instructions here, you can put them in at this point here under additional instructions for purchaser, and you can type in anything you want really. Again, that is going to be pertinent to the case, and that is going to help the technicians design. Okay, and I've asked for an angled abutment. That is going to allow me to correctly seat and have a decent emergence and a nice looking restoration at the end of the day. Okay, apologies for the poor misspellings. I must admit, it's one of the things I'm not particularly excited about on the Prime Scan is the keyboard coming up on the screen, but it's not the end of the world. I can live with it. Okay, enter all the details, and again, we want Atlantis solution. Okay, the Atlantis abutment material, we can go down to drop down list, and there's a variety here: titanium, gold shaded titanium, zirconia, and you will choose those based on your clinical needs at the time. There is some anecdotal evidence that says that gold colored titanium abutments tend to promote better gingival attachments. I'm not 100% sure, and I've not seen any studies on that as yet, but there is some anecdotal evidence. And then just put in the return time and date that you so desire, so that everything's ready for you. Okay. Remember, before this can get sent off, all the fields with an asterisk need to be completed. So that's your recipients, the order details, the return date, and the gender. And I did spend a couple of minutes trying to work out why this was not growing to be sent out, but then I figured I'd forgotten to select the gender on this one. So now what you should see is add to cart has no longer grayed out and it's ready to go. So click add to cart. That will take you onto the next screen of the Connect window or the Connect workflow. And again, you can see here we've got the test, patient ID, Dentsply Sirona implants, and the upload time. Once again, once you're happy with that, commission it, and it's ready to go. No, that's an old case. We don't need to know about that one just yet. I might do another topic on the ortho side of things. We're quite happy with this. So once we've sent it to Atlantis, we now need to log into our Atlantis website. And again, you'll have your login details for that. And we are going to select, and make sure you select the hold case for design approval. And then it's an Atlantis scan upload, and click on the next screen. And that should take you to the next screen. Here we've got, and it's confirming, it's a Straumann bone level 4.8, and again it is there. And just double check that what you've asked for is what you've got. And this is a screen, and this page is where you can change things if you've mistyped in or put different things beforehand. And here you can see we're going for a screw retained abutment, and then I've changed it to cement retained because that is what I wanted, and it's an Atlantis abutment. Again, abutment material the same as before. We're going for, and I'm going to stick with titanium in this case. The Atlantis crown type is we're not going to bother because I just want the abutment and I want the core file here. Okay. And we can select the various parameters for the abutment. And I prefer a shoulder for all of mine, and these are the gingival depth parameters that you can select. And again, if there's any additional instructions that you want to give to the lab, you can put them in this field. Once we're happy with that, click on Next, and we can continue. If you need to put in a purchase order, this is a screen where you do it. Double check everything, confirm that you're happy with the data and everything that is going to go. And once you're happy with that, hit the Submit Order button, and away you go. Once that has been sent and the crown has been designed and approved, you will get this window. You can log back into. You'll get an email from Atlantis telling you your design has been approved, and it will send you a file. So you can log into the file and you can have a look at the file that's been sent to you, and you can approve it. And here are the digital files. And since we're using Serec, we're going to download the DXD file for us. But if you're using anything else, you can download the various core files that you can input into your design software and design your crown based on the abutment which you have already approved. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about the design of the crown later on. Okay, Atlantis will have sent you the design of the abutment, and again, that will be in the email. If you're happy with the design, click on the design approval granted, and they will then design and mill the abutment and then physically post you the abutment. If you're not happy about the design, click on not approve, and then just ask them for the amendments that you need to make. And the good thing about the design here is you do have the ability to look at the design and modify and adjust it by launching the 3D editor, which opens up a separate window, and then here you have the 3D editor, which then allows you to change, modify, redesign the abutment. If you want, you can make it longer, shorter, higher, taller. You can play about with it quite a bit. My experience has been that the design that they give you, for the majority of the time, they look really, really good, and you don't need to fiddle about with them too much. And you can also see what the final restoration is going to look like based on that abutment by selecting the various boxes on this right hand side here. And then again, if you want to edit it, you can show the editor, click on the show editor, and again, as I said to you before, you can change the design of the abutment by pulling and modifying these toggles. Okay, and obviously if it's red, red is never a good thing, so I think that's quite clear that that abutment isn't going to work. So once if that doesn't work, just click on go back to original design, and it will just go back to the original design for you. So you can play with it, adjust it, modify it. Once you're happy with it, of course, then all you need to do is just save it and then close the window, and that'll be it, automatically saved and accepted by you and sent over to Atlantis, and Atlantis will mill that particular sign for you. And there you go, save and approve, away it goes, and that'll be it. Okay, and as I said to you before, here we have the web order file, web order page. You click on and select the Serec software in lab because that's what we're using, and then you will download the Serec file or the DXD file, which then allows you to open it up in Serec, or PrimeScan I should say, and then you can design your new crown based on the material. The first message you're going to get here is the material element is unavailable, and that is because there is no material chosen as yet at this point. It's up to you to change and choose it. Remember, the default recommendation from Dentsply is zirconia. At the end of the day, we're clinicians. We make our own judgments and calls as to what we're going to use. I have chosen a CEREC block here because, to be frank, that's the only blocks I had that I wasn't really using, and I just wanted to play about with this, so that's why I've selected the CEREC block for this. And once again, you go through the design modeling phase as you would normally. Okay, and here you can see it's just a section of the design of the model that has been sent back to me. So remember, going back to what I said right at the beginning, select and send complete files, upper and lower byte, to Dentsply, to Atlantis, so that you get the full image back. Okay, and again, it just makes it a lot easier for you to design your new crown if that is what you have. And we just go through the same design process as we would do with any other digital crown. I don't really need to talk to you all about that, but again, check everything, make sure you're happy with it, and once you're happy with it, you can then move on to the next phase, which is the design phase. And again, because it's an optimized design, it's an optimized shape of an abutment, then you don't need to do an awful lot of editing of the crown. Again, just check your minimal thicknesses, etc. Make sure everything fits. Here it is in the block. Make sure you're happy with that. Get it milled. Here is the abutment in situ, from the labial and now from the palatal aspect. You can see it's fitting quite nice. This is from the incisal, and you can see the incisal edge is pretty much in line with the incisal edge of the other ones. The emergence is also quite nice, it's not getting in the way. And here is the crown seated. I haven't polished it or cut off the sprue as yet. And here it is from the labial, from the buccal view, looking at the labial emergence, and you can see it's a nice little emergence profile there. So all in all, you end up with a very nice, very predictable result, very little headaches. You're happy, your patients are happy, and at the end of the day, that's what we're all here for. So thanks for taking the time to sit and watch this. If you have any questions, email me, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.